Welcome to Finding Family DNA, the show about finding and connecting birth families with LA Morning News anchor Chris Schaubel and Jay Rosenzweig, founder and CEO of birthparentfinder.com. And now, here's Chris and Jay.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to Finding Family DNA. I'm Chris Schaubel, local news anchor.
And I'm Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of birthparentfinder.com. And today, Chris, is our second show.
Love it.
And today's it's different because we're going to be talking about transparency. And that was not an issue with your story because your adopted parents were upfront with you from the beginning, basically.
Right. And let's be obvious. My adoptive parents are white, so it was, a duh. But sooner or later, I would have been like, what's going on here? But they were always upfront about the fact that I was adopted. It was never an issue in my house. My siblings never treated me any different than the other siblings. Then there are other things. So it was always a sense of love and that I was a true member of the family. But that's what's going to be so interesting about today's story is we're going to meet a woman by the name of Cassandra Brown, who also was a part of her family until a certain age when she realized, yes, you're a part of this family, but biologically speaking, not.
And that's a tough one because she didn't find out she was adopted till she was 45 years old.
That's unfortunate. That's so unfortunate. And I know that there are people who have mixed emotions about should we tell somebody, should we not? Over the years, whether it's Cassandra or someone else, what has been like? I'm sure you have a definitive position on this.
I do, and there's a reason for everything, and we'll hear more about this story about the reason why they didn't tell her. But people just back in the day, it was not the right thing to do to tell someone they're adopted because they were ashamed of it.
Yeah. And by the way, that's one of the things that I'm glad our society has moved away from is the stigma that apparently at one time especially went with being adopted. Oh, you're not really that person's kid. What a load of hooey. The born in the heart thing is not just a cliche, it's real. For my mom and dad, I was born in their heart and they treated me like that. And they've always treated. I got the same level of Christmas presents, same level of birthday presents, same level of education paid for, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it wasn't material stuff. It was physical love, showing up for ball games, being there all the time. I mean, day in and day out, to me, that's love. And that's why it doesn't matter, and by the way, they never once introduced me as their adopted son, Chris, so they never once did that. And I just think that they showed their love. But going back to today's subject, okay, so her name is Cassandra Brown. Where is she from?
Cassandra was born and raised in the Houston area.
Mm-hmm. And she contacted you when?
This was earlier this year, at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And she had the information on her maternal side,
right?
But she used my company to track them down, reach out to them, and let them know that she's out there, that this is her sister, because her birth mother, we knew the birth mother was deceased.
Right. Now, you have a clip because once she contacted you, you were able to help her. Describe the clip we're about to see.
You're going to see a clip. It was with Cassandra and her sister, Jessica, who I reached out to. Mm-hmm. And we set up a Zoom, and they basically talked about the birth mother and the circumstances of Cassandra finding out she was adopted.
All right, here's that clip.
What happened when I called you?
I was in shock when I seen Cassandra's name. That's not a common name. No. And I was like, oh my goodness, is this the person I think he's asking about? I was joy though in my heart. I was like, wow. So I picked up right away.
And you knew all this time that she did not know she was adopted?
Yes, I didn't. I knew, but I knew she didn't know.
And how did that make you feel?
It hurt because of the situation. I thought that she was supposed to be told at a certain age, and I was told in her teens. And when they didn't tell her, I felt they took her away from us. But at the same time, I understand they just wanted to make sure her life was safe. But like she said, being in her 40s, that's too late.
You found out that you were adopted Thanksgiving of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And then you waited till the second week of January to pursue finding your birth family. Why did you wait that long?
Because I am kind-hearted and I didn't want Family Feud at Christmas time. So I held it in until after Christmas. And so when my son got back into school and I still had some time off, that's when I decided to start doing research for real.
So in that few weeks period, what were you thinking? What was going on in your mind?
A lot of emotions. I was angry. I was happy. I was excited that I had a whole nother family to meet. I was mad because my family hid it from me.
So Jay, how long was that conversation and how emotional was it?
It was very emotional for Cassandra, as you can see. It was very difficult for her. And they actually spoke for over an hour in that Zoom, and they've spoken since. They've actually met.
Oh, fantastic.
And then Cassandra will bring her in, and she'll talk about that. And it's a lot. It was a lot for her.
It sounds like it. Okay, let's back up just a little bit. So, and by the way, we're going to speak with Cassandra today, so I'm excited about that. So before we do, though, help me understand some of the basic situation of what we have here. So on Thanksgiving, she's told you're adopted by her adoptive family. Then what tools is she given to begin the search? And then where does she get on her own? And where do you get her once she contacts you?
So she'll talk about that. She got paperwork from a relative that showed who her birth family was. And what do you do with that? You hold on to it. And then at some point, which was a month and a half later, she decided to reach out to my company because she did her research. And said,
hit dead ends, I'm sure.
Right. And you're just not going to contact some people out of the blue and say, hey, I'm your long-lost sister.
Yeah.
That's why you use the third party for that.
And again, what side, maternal or paternal, was she finding this success?
This was the maternal side because we knew nothing about the paternal side. Well, we were hoping that the maternal side would know who the paternal side was. But that wasn't the case in this case.
Oh, wow. All right. And so the paternal side, did you have success in that arena? And can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's great. 100% success. The birth father side, we'll bring in Misty Gillis later on to talk about that. The birth father side that possibly could have been one of several men. Mm-hmm. We found a close relative through
how? DNA?
Through ancestry. Yeah.
Ancestry.
And that's the number one test. 40 million people have taken those tests, and we were pretty positive. She wasn't optimistic about DNA. She was, is that really going to work? I go, trust me, it's going to work.
Yeah.
And we found a first cousin.
And this is a great time to break down how the DNA process works, because if you say 40 million people have taken the Ancestry.com test, that means if these are Americans, that means more than 1 out of every 10 Americans has had their DNA checked, which means that is a huge percentage of the population that you can go and cross-reference things from, because even if you don't get a direct hit with like, oh, this person's most likely your mom or dad, they're going to be your cousin or your second cousin, and that's when you can start putting pieces together.
Exactly. And your parents or your siblings don't have to take a test for you to solve the case.
Right.
With Cassandra, she got the results, she contacted me, she shared them with us, and we could see that was either a first cousin or a half aunt. But once we saw and put this, Misty will explain that. Once we saw and put this together, we realized who the birth father was or is.
Right. Okay. And then before we go to break in just a little bit, quick question for you. So what was the amount of time it took from when she reached out, Cassandra reached out and said, here's where I am with finding my birth family, DNA family members. How long was it before you had most of the puzzle, if not all of the puzzle, figured out?
Well, with the maternal side, it was immediate because we had their names. I just looked in the database and got their contact information and reached out. The paternal side, she took the DNA test in beginning of March or late February, and it took 6 to 8 weeks to get the results back. She shared them with us, and we knew the answer within an hour.
That is bananas, man. That is bananas. I mean, there's someone watching right now who's going, I know that there's this person in my family tree that we can't find. And hearing that tells me that you can probably help that person. That's what it tells me.
Yes, and it's highly successful.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you're watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. We're going to come right back, and who we're going to talk to?
Cassandra Brown.
Yes, love it. You're going to hear her story. It's emotional. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Are you searching for your birth family but don't know where to look? Look no further. BirthParentFinder.com is here to help you uncover the missing pieces of your family puzzle. With their award-winning private investigator and nationally recognized genealogist, they have the expertise and resources to assist you in finding your birth parents and other relatives. All you have to do is fill out the form on their website. Just go to BirthParentFinder.com.
Welcome back to Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. This is awesome. And we have Cassandra Brown that we're bringing in. She is the adoptee we were talking about who did not know she was adopted till she was 45 years old. And Cassandra, thank you for being here today.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I know that Chris wants to dive into this right away and ask you a ton of questions. So, Chris, go right ahead.
Well, the first question, I'll get to the emotional component first, and then we'll backtrack and do the detail stuff. But what was it like figuring out, or I don't know, maybe you had an inkling something was wrong, but why did this relative or family friend bring you this information on Thanksgiving that you were adopted?
I always asked questions because I didn't look like anyone in our family, but it was always passed off. You know how genetics are. It passed a generation or so forth. So I just went with it all my life. And my family treated me well, never treated me any different. So I never really, pursued it. I just kept on just letting it go. And then I started having some medical history and problems that nobody else in my family was having or has ever had. So then I had a family member feel sorry for me because this family member found some documentation in a file cabinet, and he figured that at my age it was time to tell me the truth.
And you also said that at one point you got an original copy of your birth certificate by mistake.
Yeah. Yes, I also adopted my son 6 years ago, and I received, when they were doing the background check and history before I could adopt my son, they found my original birth certificate, and it was coincidental that my birth mom and my adoptive mom share the same name.
Oh,
and
wow. So you just thought it was a printing error or something?
I did, because my adoptive mom said it had to be a computer error because I'm your mom. And so she supplied the birth certificate that she received when I was adopted, which has hers and my adoptive dad's names on it. Wow. And so that's how that was kind of passed over. But I still kept the wheels turning in my head going, that's kind of strange. And usually with documentations like birth certificates, that doesn't happen. So I confronted my adoptive dad and asked him, hey, would you do a DNA test? And just to find out some of my history and medical history to see why am I so sick and why does nobody else match up with this? And he refused. And we're on your birth certificate. We were there the day you were born, and we're your parents. So why would you want to even think about something like that?
That's tough.
Yeah. So Cassandra, there's a reason for everything, and we don't judge people. I never judge people and understand why people do what they do. What's interesting is that you met your birth family, the maternal side.
Yes.
And that was at the end of January?
Yes.
Well, okay, let me stop you guys there. You're skipping a step. How'd that come about?
During our Zoom call, when I first met Jessica, on our first meeting ever, we talked for an hour. And then after our hour of talking on Zoom, Jay had to leave the conversation.
Because he was like, I'm bored. I'm kidding. Let me back up one more time. All right. So you went from finding out you're adopted to all of a sudden you're Zooming with your relative. How'd you get from A to B? What happened? What happened in that time?
I went very emotional roller coaster for me. And I started doing research online as much as I could. And then when everything came to a dead end for me, I found Jay's company on the internet, and I called them and gave them the information that I had found out. And then within 5-10 minutes, he had found my sister.
Wow. Now it's making sense.
Well,
now I get it.
You had all the information right there.
Right.
It wasn't difficult.
All right. So you guys set up a call, and I'm sorry. Say your sister's name for me again.
Her name is Jessica.
So you and Jessica, Jay arranges the meeting. That's who we saw in the clip, by the way. So in our first block of the show. So you guys talk for more than an hour. What did you learn about your background and your mom's side and anything about your dad's side? What did you learn? Give me the bullet points of what you learned in that call.
I learned in that phone call that I had a brother and 3 sisters, and all of them were my half siblings except for Jessica was supposed to be my full sibling. I learned that I was biracial. I am Hispanic and Caucasian. I learned a lot about my medical history from Jessica telling me about how my mom passed and her medical history. I learned about that all of my siblings live within an hour of where I live.
Wow.
And I also learned that one of my sisters, I had probably seen her several times throughout the past 2 years and didn't even realize it was my sister.
Wow. That's fascinating. So forgive me, your birth mother, is she still
Yes.
alive?
No, she died on Mother's Day several years.
So would it be 5-10 years ago? Do you have an idea of about when she would have passed?
It was Mother's Day approximately 8 years ago.
So one of the things in my journey, when I found my birth parents, I found one of them, and then I found my half siblings with the other side, my dad's side. But my dad had died when I would have been a teenager, and I wouldn't have been looking at that time. I was too busy growing up, right? What for you emotionally? What was it like? Both learning you had siblings to gain, but you had already lost your mother. What was that feeling? What was that sensation like?
It was, hold on a second.
It's okay. Take your time.
It was very emotional. Still is. It just upsets me because if my adoptive family would have told me early enough, and when they should have, according to the documentation of my adoption paperwork, I would have had a chance or opportunity to have tried to find her. And now I have to learn everything about her through my siblings.
And you did meet them a couple weeks after we had the Zoom, is that right?
That is correct. 2 weeks after we had the Zoom, I met.
And I know we had a discussion about how that went. It was indifferent for you, wasn't it?
It was very indifferent. Because we were raised so differently, it was like I knew they were my family and I wanted that bond and connection with them, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. They're they were brought up completely different than me, so it's a lot of confrontation now.
Mm.
And then before you took the DNA test, you were under the impression that Jessica was your full-blooded sister, correct?
Correct. She had told me or sent me pictures of our dad, which I thought was my dad. She sent me pictures of my siblings on my dad's side, and I also did a FaceTime with that side of the family. And then after I had met with them and so forth, during that time, I had also done the DNA test, and I was still waiting on results. And I had kind of discussed it with you that I felt that there was still something missing. and that this might not be the correct family on that side, because there again, I didn't look like them. They were very kind people, very accepting of me, and they too thought I was their half sibling. But then when the DNA came back, it proved that no, I had a different dad.
Right. So your hunch was 100% right.
Right.
Now, just so you know, we're not letting you go. We're just going to take a brief break because you're watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay and Cassandra today. We're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to talk to Cassandra some more, and then we're also going to bring in a genealogist to nail all of this down so that you at home can do some of this yourself. And if you need Jay's help, he'll help you too. We'll be right back.
So we have Andrew Cook with us, the editor of Family Tree Magazine. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sponsoring our show, Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. And would you like to basically tell us a little bit about Family Tree Magazine?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really glad to be here, and congratulations on the show. Family Tree is a genealogy how-to brand that provides advice for genealogists of all experience levels. So whether you've been researching your family for 30 years or you just are connecting with your birth family for the first time, we provide how-to articles on using different kinds of records, different tools like DNA tests, and the big genealogy websites to learn about your ancestors and really discover your family's story. People kind of age into genealogy, but by no means is genealogy just a retiree's game. It's really something that's accessible to all generations. You know, everyone's got ancestors, and I think people tend to become more curious about their family history as they get older, and maybe even as some of the relatives start to pass away. But the technology that a lot of the big genealogy companies are coming out with these days have made it really easy for anyone to find their ancestors just from their homes, from their personal devices, even from your smartphone.
And beyond history and curiosity, what are some of the real tangible reasons it's good for people to know their family tree?
Well, there are certainly health concerns. If there are conditions that run in your family or that you're predisposed to different health conditions, there can be that incentive to want to learn about your ancestry. But I think also there's a tendency for us to sort of read into our ancestors' experiences as if we were there at the time. We sort of see history through the eyes of our ancestors. So it can be a really valuable way of experiencing history and also better understanding ourselves and kind of how we fit into the bigger picture.
And what do people have to do to subscribe to Family Tree Magazine?
You can see everything we do at familytreemagazine.com. There you'll find a subscribe now button where you can sign up for our magazine, which comes out 6 times per year. But we also have a website with a lot of really great articles that have been in the magazine and elsewhere. And we also offer online courses, webinars, and our very own podcast.
And thank you, Andrew, and thank you again for sponsoring our show. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. And we talked about how important it was that Cassandra take a DNA test. And we had her take an ancestry DNA test. And she did it at the end of January, got the results back. I think she took it probably in February and got the results back within 6 to 8 weeks. I think she sent it to us on a Saturday morning, and it took us an hour to figure out who the birth father possibly is. And I used the help of Misty Gillis, who is our top genealogist at birthparentfinder.com. And right now we're going to bring in Misty. Misty, thank you again for coming here today and helping us solve Cassandra's mystery of who the birth father was.
Happy to have helped, Jay. Thank you.
So I looked at the DNA and I found a first cousin popped up right there. And from that point, I didn't know who the birth father possibly could be. What did you find? What did you look at?
So I took a look at her in common with or shared matches with that top first cousin. And I was able to establish, because when you have a first cousin, you're sharing a set of grandparents. So you can share grandparents on your maternal side or your paternal side. And I was able to establish through her shared matches that the common line was the top match's paternal family, meaning one of the paternal uncles would be the biological father of Cassandra.
Yeah, and we know that the top match is not a half sibling based on the DNA relation.
Correct. The centimorgans were not enough to be a half sibling.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So when you get your DNA results back from, say, ancestry.com, these are the kind of things that are provided, like people, they give you the names of people who you might be related to. Is that what it does?
That's the tricky
Who
part.
you are related to.
I'm
yes.
sorry, who you are related to. So if you take this test, it's going to say you're most likely related, not most likely, you are related with like 99.999% certainty of some level with this person, because they have also taken the ancestry test and have agreed to have their information put out
Correct.
there.
Right, but what the public doesn't know is that most of the time the people don't use their real names. So you're never going to know who that person is.
John Doe, Jane Doe.
Unless they want it to be out there. So we had a user ID. That was it for the top match. A user ID, which was a random name. So we have a database, Chris.
Yes.
That we put that user ID in, and it identified who that top match was.
Wait, time out.
Yeah.
But it was a real name, though.
No.
She used...
Wait, I'm lost.
She didn't use... The top match didn't use her real name.
So how did you figure out her real name?
Because she used an ID, Jack something, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right.
So I go to my database and I type in user IDs.
Right.
And I put in Jack 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever
Right.
it was. And I got a hit, which identified who that person was.
Wow.
And it doesn't always work
Is
that
this
way.
proprietary stuff to birthparentfinder.com?
No.
Oh.
This is a public database that anyone could subscribe to. And Misty uses that. I could tell you what the database was. It was a database called Been Verified, and anyone can use it.
Wow.
And my proprietary database does not have that search feature.
Wow. I'm impressed. So Misty, tell me, so you get this information. What do you guys do with it? Do you then go to Cassandra, or do you huddle and figure it all out before you go to her?
We definitely did a huddle. He came forward and told me, okay, I've identified who this match is. We know that it's likely a first cousin. I took it and said, okay, it's a first cousin on the paternal side. And so we were able to build out that family tree based off census records and other publicly identifying information to determine who the uncles were of the top match. And then Jay kind of went running with that information.
So Jay, what happens next? Now that you've identified who you believe the father is, who is that person? And is that when you pick up the phone and call Cassandra?
But I actually called the top match first.
Oh.
Right, Cassandra? I called the top match and explained who I was. I first told her, look at your DNA results. Look that I manage this person's account, Cassandra, his account. Cassandra used her maiden name, which is smart. Always use your maiden name or your birth name if you know it when you take a DNA test. That way people know who you might be. And that's a good trick to know. Misty praises that.
Can you put more than one name? Like, hey, this is my birth name, my biological name, if they were given one, but this is my adoptive name. Can you put more than one name in there?
Hyphenate it.
Oh, you can hyphenate it.
Yeah, you can do that. Misty, you've seen that too, right?
Yep.
All right. So you call. What happened?
She was great. I mean, she just said, well, obviously it's not my father. And my other uncles, they were not in that area. They're older. And the guy who I most likely believe is Cassandra's birth father is the player of the family.
Oh, wow.
The guy that got around.
All right. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. Was it him?
That we don't know yet.
Oh, you don't know yet. So where are we on the paternal side?
And this is where we're going to bring Cassandra back, because this family, your paternal family, is wonderful, Cassandra. And she has 2 half-brothers on the paternal side, and one of them agreed to take a DNA test, and he's doing that right now. So later on, we'll do a DNA reveal.
Oh, wow.
And Cassandra, you just talked to him the other day. What was that like?
I just spoke with my half brother last night, and we talked for an hour and a half.
Is your father still alive? If this all matches up perfectly, is he still alive?
No, my father passed away in 2021. 21 of COVID complications.
Oh, that breaks my heart. You missed him barely.
I did. But I spoke with my half-brother last night, and he filled me in on the family, told me they actually only live an hour away from me, both brothers. And they were telling me about he was telling me about my dad, sending me photos, and that he didn't have a clue that I existed. But also, twist to it is they just found out 2 years ago they have another half sister.
Oh, so
that
Papa was a Rolling
Yeah, and
Stone.
by the way, Cassandra, I did not know this until just now.
Wow.
I'm just now telling you.
Yeah.
I told you I have surprises. But talking to him, his half sister passed away last year. So both of my brothers were very hesitant, as if they even wanted to meet me and go through this again. But the more I talked with him, the more we found we had in common, things we like to do, places that we've lived, and so forth. And we are actually going to set up to meet soon in person.
That was going to be my next question. So while you have met your maternal side, you have yet to meet what is presumed at this point to be your paternal side, but you're pretty confident the DNA is going to work out to solidify this as your paternal side. So just in talking, do you feel, and I know it's early and I don't want to be unfair to your maternal side, do you feel like you're going to have a little bit more in common with the paternal side than what you feel like you have with the maternal side, or is it too early to tell?
Yes, I do. I've already hit it off with my half brother, and he's wanting me to call him after work today.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
We're forming that bond.
You teared up, you cried when you realized you had missed the opportunity to know your mother. Does the father hit you the same way?
At this moment, it's still so surreal, and we're still waiting for his DNA to come back with my half brother to make sure 100%, because I don't, like I was telling him last night, I don't want to get too attached to another family that might possibly not be my biological family.
That is so smart.
Right, but we know 100% that they're your blood.
They are my blood, but he may not be my half brother. He may be my cousin.
Right. But once that's nailed down, it's full steam ahead, which I really appreciate. Two questions that I want to get to you before we have to end the show. And the first one is, mental health is so important these days. Do you plan to, are you getting, do you need any form of counseling regarding these feelings that are emerging?
Yes, I am seeing a counselor. I see a counselor once a week to go over my new findings, go over feelings. I'm also journaling my journey, because it's a lot to process. And then it's even more to process to find out 45 years of your life has just been turned upside down. And for me now, the hardest thing is trusting people. I have a hard time trusting, because I don't know who's lying to me, who's not lying, and who's hiding secrets that they shouldn't be hiding from me. So that's my biggest issue right now, is trust.
Does anyone on either side of the family know how they connected, your birth mom and birth father?
No.
Gotcha. Well, you're the result and you're the blessing. So that, I know firsthand that you're the blessing. So
yes, my birth mother and my birth father were friends, and they used to go out at a club in the Pasadena, Houston area, and that's how they met.
Well,
It was my aunt that told me that.
Fantastic.
But also your birth mother, the three girls have three different fathers, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, that goes back to the
right.
The
three different fathers.
So maybe both of them are Rolling Stones?
That appears to be.
Well, yeah, but that's life. That's the way life is sometimes. Real quick, before we end the show, what is your lesson that you want to get out to other people?
I am actually working on some things with the Texas Department of Children's Adoption Department, and I am trying to make it a law to where by the time children that are adoptees, by the time they're 21, they have to at least have their medical records handed to them and told that they're adopted. Because it's not fair to go through life thinking you're one person, and then when you're older like me, finding out it's not so, because it's dangerous to people's health. Even though it may seem innocent to the person that adopted the child, it's not. It's dangerous because if there's an underlying medical condition that this person needs to know to take care of ahead of time, they might not be getting the care that they need to prevent something when they get older. And so it's my goal to get that passed to where at least by the age of 21, I wanted a law to where they have to be told.
I think that's excellent. And I would support that nationally. I really would. As someone who's lived exactly what you're going through, I couldn't agree more. When I found my birth mother, I learned all kinds of important medical information. Even though my dad had passed, she told me some things. And then she broke down all of her medical conditions, some of which I actually have. I have a fake knee. She had 2 fake knees.
And,
so,
right,
yeah.
and there's only like 13 states that have laws that adoptees can get their records. I know in California, our state, there's a bill in the legislature that's opening up records for adoptees. But a lot of times these bills get quashed. They don't go through. But any help you need, Cassandra, I'm there for you.
Thank you.
All right. Cassandra Brown, thank you so much. Misty, you're amazing at what you do in helping people find their genealogy and nail it down. Jay Rosenzweig, another great show. It's great being here with you, brother.
Thank you so much, Chris. And wait till next week. We got a similar story about a guy who didn't realize his father wasn't his birth father.
All right. Thanks for watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay.
If you want exclusive bonus segments of these episodes, join our Patreon at patreon.com/findingfamilydna. And if you are looking to start the journey of finding your family DNA, just go to birthparentfinder.com. Thank you for joining us on Finding Family DNA.
What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars.